Great. Okay. Well, coolio. Well, welcome to the 5D Academy of Higher Consciousness. I'm Zarathustra. And the topic of the day is the shaman and the shapeshifter. So I believe most of you have heard about the shapeshifter. And I thought it's an interesting topic to talk about because a lot of us, whether we're aware of it or not, we do shape-shifting. And there is a general understanding that shape-shifting has to be a supernatural ability. But I'm going to get into that. And in fact, we all do some kind of shape-shifting, whether we're aware of it or not. So let's. What do you mean with shape-shifting? Shape-shifting, I'm going to get into it and explain it to you. Okay, I'll get into the details about shape-shifting. Well, basically, let's do that. Let's sit in silence for a few minutes together. So by then, the rest of the crew has joined in, and then I'm going to get into this. Okay? Cool. So just relax, close your eyes, find yourself a comfortable position, and sort of divert your attention inwards. Bring your attention inside towards the watcher, towards the one who's observing. And dive into the silence within yourself. And you can just take a deep breath and relax into it. And kind of it gives you an opportunity to disconnect from a busy day and normal affairs of during the day of whatever we're doing. We can just relax. This gives you an opportunity to disconnect from your mind. Great. Beautiful. Beautiful. Great. So, shamanism and shape-shifting, they go hand in hand. How many people are familiar with the life of the Gurdjieff? Yeah, how many people have heard of Gurdjieff? Yeah, Gurdjieff was a master who lived sometimes I think he was born sometimes in early 1900, and he lived through the Second World War, and he was a master in shape-shifting, and he had quite a bit of followings. And so at one point, he's in occupied France during the Second World War. And Gurdjieff was conducting his workshops, working with his followers and students. And of course, if the Nazis discovered him, they would execute him. But he was a master into disguise. So if he wanted to go food shopping, he would dress completely ordinarily, looking like any other Frenchman, and without any kind of distinct signs that by no means you would pay any attention to him. So it would be another just average John walking around the streets. And so he had the ability of changing his looks, and according to the atmosphere of the day or what was going on, instead of like dressing spiritual and wearing all kinds of spiritual stuff, rings or bracelets or necklaces and blah blah blah, he would totally make himself look ordinary. So he would not be detected, and he could just move into the shadows and take care of whatever he had to take care of. So if you have ever read anything from Carlos Castaneda and his encounters with Don Juan, has everyone heard about Don Juan? So there's a series of books that were mostly written in 60s and 70s about encounters of Carlos Castaneda with this awakened being, this master shaman named Don Juan. And what happens is, just one moment, because I'm having construction on my street. How unusual in Tulum, having construction. Let me close this door. Is that there's a whole series of different books, and whenever you get a chance, I recommend that you check it out, because here you are really reading about a master shaman and a shapeshifter. So Carlos Castaneda comes across his Satguru, his master, which is Don Juan. And Don Juan is leading him into a series of different exercises, rituals, different kind of methods, techniques that he can raise his power, and he can reach a higher level of consciousness. And throughout these practices and exercises that Don Juan gives Carlos Castaneda, there's a number of different very interesting things that it would be wonderful and very helpful for you if you check it out and discover them. I'm not going to get into these practices right now, but I'm just going to be explaining to you certain things. So Carlos Castaneda is following Don Juan, and it becomes his disciple. And at one point, he starts shadowing him and following him to see what he's doing. So here's this master, and Carlos Castaneda is just spying on him. And one day he sees, they had a conversation, and Don Juan tells him, yeah, tomorrow I have to go take care of some finances. I need to go to the bank. So Carlos Castaneda is spying on him, and then he sees like Don Juan comes out of his house and is wearing a suit, a double-breasted suit with a tie, and followed him, and he goes to the bank and takes care of his banking affairs. So later on the day, when they get together in the desert or somewhere, and Don Juan is back into his old clothing or the way he's dressing, which is more shamanic way, Carlos Castaneda brings it up to him. He says, Don Juan, I have a confession to make. I followed you today, I spied on you, and I saw you went to the bank, and you were wearing a two-piece suit. And I don't understand. That was very strange. And Don Juan tells him that, listen, when you're going to go in a bank and do some banking, that is a part of the shape-shifting, is that you want to give the banker the impression that you're a businessman, you're successful, and if I dress shamanic, or I go into the bank with a pair of shorts and sandals and a t-shirt, the banker is definitely going to look at me differently and is not going to take me very seriously. Now, you must understand, this is like 50 years ago. It's a different time. Today, times change, things are different, values have changed. But basically, if you're going to go to your local bank and you're going to apply for a loan, you may think, oh, I can walk in there with a pair of shorts, sandals, and a t-shirt, or you can really dress up. And you can see the difference of how you're being treated if you're dressed up in business suit and you look like you're serious, like you're working, you have a job, you're a professional, and the way you're being treated is going to be different than if you just go there with a pair of shorts, t-shirt, and sandals. So this is what I'm talking about, shape-shifting. For another example, if you are invited to a high-end dinner or a party, and you're going to be meeting some prominent, important people, and potentially there may be some kind of business comes out of it, how are you going to dress like? Are you going to just go there in a sweatshirt that has a little bit food on it? Your hair is all messed up. You're wearing like some kind of sweatpants with a pair of sneakers? Or are you going to be dressing up? How would you go to a nice event? Anita?
Yes, second one.
Yeah, you're going to be dressing up, right?
But not because of people or the circumstance. It's because I will do it my way.
Yeah, you do it your way. But basically, you're not going to go to a high-end restaurant or a high-end kind of an event, let's say like Oscars or something similar or maybe not as extravagant at that one, but you're not going to go there like a slob. No, you're not going to feel good about yourself. You're going to stand out. They may not even let you in because the way you're dressed. So that's shape-shifting. You have changed and dressed up according to the occasion. Now, in the same time, if it's on a Sunday and or Saturday or something like that, and then the school that your kid's going to school, they're having a barbecue, and it's summertime or springtime, you're not going to wear a high-end suit or a very expensive piece of clothing and being all dressed up going to an event like that. You're going to be dressed casually for a barbecue on a Sunday. Because if you're wearing something really, if you're really dressing up, you're going to be standing out, and everyone's going to stare at you like, what's up with this woman or this guy? You understand? Does this make sense? Yeah. So you're going to be dressing up and putting the costumes according to the occasion and the event, and you try to blend in. You're definitely going to have your own unique flavor of how you're going to be dressed up, but you would be shape-shifting according to the occasion if you don't want to stand out or everyone's staring at you like, what's up with this person? So, and the same thing is towards our behavior. So your behavior also changes, your posture, the way you eat, the way you talk, the way you drink, the way you're standing up, according to the situation you're in. So, and if you're with people who you feel very comfortable with, and this is a very casual situation, yeah, you may be dressed very casually, you may be lying down on the couch, having a drink, and laughing, talking to friends. But if there's somebody, let's say you have a celebrity in the house, and someone very important, then you're not going to be lying down on the couch, having some chips and having a little, I don't know, guacamole on your cheek. you're going to be behaving yourself and acting differently. So reason I'm using these examples, and I brought this up, is to give you an idea that shape-shifting is something we all have learned to do. Because you're shifting, you're shape-shifting according to where you're at and the situation. Does this make sense now? Yeah. So shamans throughout the history of mankind, they have become the true shaman. They have become masters of shape-shifting. Some shamans, and you can see that, for example, in the army, like the soldiers. Like if they're going to drop, like with a helicopter, they're going to be dropping somewhere in the jungle, like during the Vietnam War, or any kind of like guerrilla affair, that is in somewhere tropical, or there's a lot of vegetation. You can see soldiers painting their faces, wearing camouflage clothing, army clothing. So you camouflage yourself and you blend in yourself with the environment. So you're not spotted. Like, for example, 100 years ago, 150 years ago, like both the British and the French army, the French soldiers, their pants were red. So that was their uniform, was red pants. And the British, they are known as the red coats. Well, those two colors, whether you're a red coat or you're wearing red pants, is the worst thing you can do being in a battle, because you're easily being identified and they can shoot you. But if you're wearing camouflage clothing and you're blending yourself with the nature, it's going to be a lot more difficult to find you. And also in the nature, if you look around, there's a lot of different animals that throughout the evolution, they have changed the color of their skin, and they become the masters of camouflaging themselves. So, you know, they could be an iguana climbing a tree, or some kind of snake, or some kind of whatever creature it is, and is hanging off of a branch and is right in front of you, and you don't see them unless they move. You wouldn't be able to recognize them. As long as they stay still, you can't tell. Only when they're moving, you notice like there is a creature there. So they've become masters of shape-shifting and camouflaging themselves. And this is one of the shamanic talents and aspects of the shaman, that they are not stuck in one way of thinking, or one way of being, or one way of appearance. They have learned how to shift, change, and adapt themselves to the situation. So any questions so far? Comments, questions? So throughout the history of mankind, the species that do you know which species survived the change all this time on the planet of Earth? There's only one kind of species that survived it. Most people think the species that survived all the Earth changes from the ages of dinosaurs, you know, all the way to now, people think, if you ask people, you ask them this question, like, which species is the one that survived? People think the smartest or the strongest. Would you think the smartest or the strongest species has survived all these changes throughout the history of time? Anyone? I can't hear you. You want to talk to me?
I think it is they that can't change.
The kind that what?
They that can't change. You know, the one who can adopt itself to everything. We survive.
Exactly, you're both right. It's the species that survives throughout the history of mankind is not the smartest or the strongest, is the one who's most adaptable. The one who's most adaptable is the one who survived. Now, whether the species can adapt itself to temperature changes, to radiations, to the moist, or bacteria and viruses. And that has nothing to do to how smart they were and how strong they were. It was to the fact that they were able to adjust and adapt. And that comes to the very subject of what I'm talking about today. Same thing with our lives, your situation. The people who are resisting change and are not willing to make any adjustments to whatever is happening because of whether it's politics, economical changes of life, or environmental changes, whatever is happening. And we can see it throughout the course of your life. All these years you've been alive. Like for example, let's say, I mean, most of us have seen wars, seen a lot of changes in life. You see a lot of changes in yourself. Some of you may have experienced like extreme change in your family structure. Things have changed. Some had to move to another country and start a new life. All kinds of different things. And those who are very regimented, that everything has to be this way, because for the past 20 years, everything has been this way all the time. And it must be that way or forget it. Like, if, for example, what happened during the pandemic, all of a sudden, for the first time in, I would say, our lives, without having a major world war, you are forced to stay home all day long. And you cannot go to a restaurant. You can't go inside a restaurant. You can't order food. You can't sit with other people. You're not allowed to go to the mall. You're not allowed to go shopping. You have to be completely isolated. Do you know how many people have lost it during the pandemic? They totally lost it because things changed and they could not be doing what they were doing before. They were forced to change their lifestyle. So many marriages got broken. So many people went through divorces. So many people were forced to move from one place to another place. And those who were swift and easy about it, they were very easily able to adjust to their new lives. But those who were really regimented, that everything has to be their way, and it's got to be in this pattern, because now I can't do the same thing I used to do for past 20 years, they suffered. They truly suffered. So I don't know if you remember last week I was talking about shamanism, and I was saying that shamanism is a practice of having a broader view, broader vision of an expanded universe. Shamanism is not about just playing with some rattles or drumming or things like that. The essence of shamanism is that you view a broader universe. Broader means that you have to learn to get out of your box. The way you think things should be, which existence continuously challenging us and forcing us to adapt and adjust to a new situation, whatever that is. You're forced to adapt and adjust to a new situation. And that is happening continuously in our lives. Like there's no way that you can hang on to the same thing forever. It just, especially when you enter into a spiritual world, when you come into this world of expanding your consciousness and you become self-aware and you start working on yourself. And as your awareness changes, the more you work on yourself, the more you become aware, the stronger are the lessons. Like you cannot get away with old bullshit that you could pull it off and come up with some certain things. And in the past, when you weren't in this level of awareness, when you were in a lower level of awareness, you could get away with things. But now if you look at it, you can't get away with it. Existence comes back and hunts you down. I don't know if you've noticed that or not. It's like either instant gratification or instant Zen stick. Like, for example, I'm going to give you an example, right? You're kind of like walking into the supermarket and you have this little habit that you like to pick up a little piece of chocolate and put it in your pocket. It's your thing. You've been doing it for 20 years. It's not like you're a thief and you need to steal things, but it's your thing. You always like to pick up a little something somewhere. You don't need the money or anything, but it's your thing. As your level of awareness starts to rise and you start to become self-aware, you get to a point that, okay, you stole a little piece of chocolate, boom. You get home, nobody caught you in a store. You get home and all of a sudden your phone is missing. You don't have your phone. You lost your phone. You stole a little piece of chocolate and you lost your phone. And you're beating yourself up like, God damn, what happened to my phone? Where's my phone? And existence, you know, the master comes and says, you're stealing? Here it is. Or let's say you're a kind of a person who says, you know, white lies, little lies, you know. Like, for example, you're kind of used to that, you know, like you lie. Now, there's different way of lying and different degrees of lying. I mean, it could be big lies or it could be small lies. And okay, you're not telling big lies, but you're kind of used to saying small lies and get away with it. Small lies, like, I can give you an example, Oh, your mom calls you, or your dad calls you, or your da-da-da calls you, and he says, you pick up the phone, you pick up the phone, you're talking to them, and they say, hey, why don't you come over to my place on Friday evening? And you say, oh, no, I have plans. I'm meeting my girlfriend. We're going to go out to dinner, which is a lie because you don't have that plan. And you're kind of, you kind of lie, these little lies. They're not major lies. That's not going to change anybody's life. But you're just kind of in a habit of saying these little lies. And you get away with it. But then it comes to a point in your level of consciousness that the moment you say a little lie, 5 minutes after, 2 hours after, 5 hours after, boom, it comes back to you. It comes back to you. And if you pay attention, those of you who are more advanced, you can see that existence, which is your own self, because there's no separation from the whole thing. It's all part of you. It talks to you all the time. It's always in communication with you. There's a constant communication going on here, continuously, all the time. From the way you think, your mentality, to the way you behave, and to the way you talk. It's a constant communication with existence. And the shaman, when we talk about shamanism, when we talk about the shaman and the shapeshifter, the shaman has mastered and has become aware of this constant communication with the nature, with the environment, with their surrounding, and with the people around them. Again, as I said, shamanism is not limited to only one thing or two. People think shamanism means, oh, we're going to go to the desert with a group of Native Americans, or we're going to go to Peru, to the Amazon, with some native Brazilian or Peruvian shaman, and we're going to drink ayahuasca. And they're going to teach me shamanism. That's just a little part of it. That's just a little fracture of it. That's not the whole thing. That's a very limited view of seeing shamanism. Or they think shamanism is just doing rituals. Or you're just dancing around the fire for hours to go into a trance state. Yeah. Or be able to have out-of-body experience. They're all part of that shamanism practice. But it's not just limited to it. It permeates into every aspect of our being and what we do. So it's a lot deeper than what we're thinking and imagining. Ultimately, it pushes you and it helps you to connect with existence, to connect with the beings, the life force on this planet. So it's huge. Right. Anybody has any questions or comments?
Yeah, I was thinking about the challenge we were talking about on the author. What would you recommend to start with if I should read a little bit about it?
I didn't hear the first part of what you said. Say it again.
What kind of book do you
Group.
recommend?
What kind of group?
No, book. You were talking
Oh,
about
book.
the Mexican author and the shaman, Don Juan.
Yeah, Carlos Castaneda.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's a very good place to check things out. There's these are like from the old days, but there's a lot of interesting things in it that Don Juan is teaching Carlos Castaneda. And there's like 6, 7 different books. You just pick one and start. I think it's a trilogy, so you can start with number 1.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a very good place to begin. There's a lot of gems in it.
Yeah.
The entire life of Gurdjieff is full of shamanism and mysticism. These are like masters, teachers that they've tapped into the secrets of the universe, the mysticism. But none of these things is going to help you or has any value if you're not willing to change the way you think.
Of course not.
Change the way you are. If you're not willing to being open into giving up some old habits and changing, being open to change. That's why it's kind of like funny for me to talk about, or people come and tell me like, oh, I want to go into the 5th dimension. I'm interested in shifting in 5D. But I want to keep all of my old habits. I don't want to make any changes, but I want, it's like the old saying, everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Are you going to talk about these topics in Tulum at your retreat?
Well, yeah, it's the shamanic retreat. So it is a shamanic retreat.
Yes, of course.
And we have a very nice group coming. And of course, Baramji is going to come too. And yeah, and I mean, we're in the heart of shamanic country. So it's the Mayans, they're deeply into shamanic practices. So we're right in their land, And this place is just like full of prana. So much energy is here. So powerful.
And you're gonna checking out the pyramids, right?
Yeah, we're gonna check some pyramids. We're gonna go to Chichen Itza pyramid. We have a great ritual that day. There's a wonderful cenote we're gonna go to because that pyramid is based. It's based on water. It's connected to water, and also we're gonna go to the old colonial town of Valladolid, which is very colorful, and we're gonna go have lunch there and do some shopping. It's gonna be a wonderful, wonderful day. We also have a shamanic dance. There's a Mayan shamans coming and doing a ritual for us at the Ozone Ashram. Also, another day we're gonna go to Maya Tulum, to the ruins, the beach, and then go do some shopping. So, you know, you've been at my retreats. I like them to be very colorful. I don't want them to be limited to one thing and staying in one place. I like variety. So, and movement and dance and excursion and going to different places. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, you showed us that when we were participating in Sedona.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
Yeah. So for those of you who are newcomers, my website is zarathustra.tv. My social media pages are Zarathustra 5D, and you can always send me an email at info@zarathustra.tv. And that's one of the best ways to get a hold of us. Info@zarathustra.tv. We still have a few spots available for our Tulum Shamanic Retreat. So feel free to reach out. If you have any questions, you can contact us. We'll be more than happy to, if you have questions, we can create a Zoom meeting and I can talk to you and give you more information. Pretty much the entire, from the time you come to the time you leave, we take care of you. We'll pick you up and drop you off, and all the fees and all the entrance fees, everything is taken care of. We're going to be serving 3 wonderful organic meals per day. There's 2 lunches that we're going to go out of town, and those lunches you pay for yourself. But other than that, everything else from A to Z is taken care of. So if you have a desire to come to Tulum in February, which is very, very nice, the weather is amazing, and come and visit the tropics. You want to get away from -14 or -5 and come and get some sunshine and moist and come back to life. then I highly recommend it, and receive some shamanic practice and training and be around the juice, well, then buckle up and come to Tulum. We love to have you there, have you here with us. Well, my dear friends, I'm going to get going. I want to go watch the World Cup with my friends. It's France against Morocco. And this is the semifinal, so it's exciting. I'm not rooting for anybody, but but it's just fun to get together with your friends and watch the game. It's been, I have to say, past month, and it's been really fun because that's what we've been doing with my tribe. We most of the time get together and watch the games. So I'll send you my love and light wherever you are. Just never forget that your power is in your heart. You carry love in your heart. You are the torch of light. So stay in your heart and don't forget your power. That love is your true nature, and you're the one who can always give it. It comes from you. But first you have to remember that love is not something you can lose. Love is not something someone can take away from you. Love is your power, and you're the one that you're looking for. You're the one that you're looking for. Namaste, good seeing you, and looking forward to connecting with you soon. Next Academy is going to be next week, same time.
Record